A long, long time ago, in a meta far, far away, aliens once had some relevancy. For a brief moment. If you blinked, then you probably missed it, for they were certainly not Tier 1, or, hey, they really weren't even Tier 2, but they did see some play. Now, well, those times are gone. But the question is, should they be? Can an alien deck be competitive in the current meta? The answer might surprise you. To answer this question, one must first look to the alien monsters and their direct support. The only non-effect alien is Shock Trooper, which is actually a popular card for a number of alien decks. The only reason for this popularity, for as a non-effect alien by itself it's rather pointless, is utilizing it in combination with Rescue Rabbit to make a quick XZ play, commonly summoning King of the Feral Imps. Mathematically, the Shock Trooper Rescue Rabbit combination seems quality, but overall the play, in my opinion, really isn't very good. The popularity of the play is due to the potential advantage it produces. You get a 3-card deck then, with one of those cards going into your hand, and you get a 2300 attack point monster on the field. The problem is it takes away 4 cards from the main deck, cards that can be better allocated to improve victory probability. Therefore, I really don't like running Shock Trooper or Rescue Rabbit in an alien deck. It just has that one thing, and that one thing, actually, when you break it down, isn't that important or impressive. Cosmic Horror Gangrel suffers due to the era in which it was created, for its effect is completely lackluster in the modern meta. If this card's token addition effect was quick play, then it maybe would warrant consideration. I still probably wouldn't run it, but at least it would be something. Without being quick play, the effect is incredibly lackluster. In most situations, it might as well just be a no effect 2600 attack point monster. Overall, I really think you should have been able to special summon it without having to tribute any monsters if you controlled a monster you took control of within some form of A counter effect, but that's certainly not the case. Alien Mother is a card with a lot of potential, but for me it simply sacrificed at kind of the altar of deck space due to the inconsistency of its effect. Mother's takeover effect could be better than Goyo Guardians. The monster you get can be summoned in either attack or defense mode, not just defense mode. Then you get to the part where, well, if Mother got removed from the field, you destroy all monsters that are under her quote-unquote control. Well, so much for that effect, because removing Mother from the field is incredibly easy, especially in this era. Also, the probability of activating Mother's effect is rather low, depending instead on multiple card combinations. For if you have the advantage, the opponent is probably just going to start setting monsters if they can't make a big play, eliminating the ability to place A counters, thus removing Mother's effect, thereby reducing it to pretty much just a 2300 non-effect monster, and it's really not worth running. Alien Overlord is a quality card, for it possesses 2 useful effects for an alien deck in an innate special summoning ability that, while tied to A counters, the counters can come from anywhere on the field, not just from like an opponent's monster or the opponent's side of the field. And it can add counters to each of the opponent's monsters once per turn, helping fuel other effects. Unfortunately, though, this effect isn't quick play, but at least it's something. However, while both of these effects are useful, the nature of my alien build tends to limit its overall effectiveness due to competition with other A counter consuming cards. Therefore, I only run 1 Overlord. I think if Overlord had more attack points, 24-2500, then 2 would be in the cards, but it doesn't, so it's not. Also, running multiple Overlords can produce the problem of bad draws early, which alien decks tend to have a more difficult time getting around than other decks. The problem with Flying Saucer's effect is that there really is no easy way to activate it without using some form of recursion card during the opponent's turn or running Shining Angel. If this card instead allowed you to skip your next draw phase to add the card instead of substituting the draw phase, then it might be worthy for consideration, because you could get the card, you could summon it, get the card right away, and hey, at least you could do something. Leaving it on the field gets a little sketchy, and especially only having 2000 defense really kind of heavily handicaps this card. Basically, the final verdict for this card is too slow, too weak. I'm not a huge fan of Alien Warrior, but there is a lack of good alien monsters, thus its A counter addition effect works alright despite it being an XZ world. Fortunately, at 1800 attack with the A counter reduction effect does allow it to kill a number of monsters. Interestingly enough, its biggest advantage really is that it's level 4. Because there aren't a lot of good level 4 aliens. Alien Skull just has too many restrictions to be valuable in any real context. Level 3 or lower instead of level 4 or lower places an unnecessary restriction on its summon, but really the loss of the normal summons or sets destroys the card. I know they were trying to get a Lava Golem type feel, but this card isn't Lava Golem. It's far from worth the effort. Alien Telepath is a nice support card for this deck, for while the A counter removal has to occur from an opponent's monster, that condition is not difficult at all to achieve with existing support. Thus, this card is basically a once per turn kind of pseudo Breaker the Magical Warrior. You lose 300 attack via the loss of the A counter to destroy a spell or trap card on the field. 1600 attack in addition to the A counter reduction, this card, kind of like Warrior, can certainly kill a number of targets. However, it does need support to get its effect, so I only run 2 copies. Alien Hunter has potential, but typically its double attack is not helpful in this era of Yu-Gi-Oh!, so it loses out to Alien Warrior. Alien Hypno is also a card with potential, as it's kind of the monster version of Brainwashing Beam, but the Gemini effect and the lack of searchability to even a Battle Searcher in some attempt to more easily get its effect really do hurt its playability too much from a consistency standpoint. Also, the fact that it's not quick play really hurts. You're better off just running something like Brainwashing Beam instead. Alien Kid is a must at 3 for any alien deck due to all of the special summoning that exists in the game. One of the keys to aliens is getting counters on the field, especially on opponents' monsters, and Kid is the single best monster at accomplishing that goal. The attack reduction aspect is just a bonus for Kid. Alien Dog is a sneaky good monster for while it is only level 3, eliminating the possibilities of XZ plays. The A counter addition makes monsters much more killable, and it sets up quasi-OTK plays with cards like Code A and Brainwashing Beam. 3 copies. Alien Mars has a very nice effect, but it does not have the stats to support the effect. Mars works well in an Alien Stun deck, but Alien Stun decks are too slow and inconsistent to succeed. Thus, Mars is definitely out. Anytime talking about Alien Infiltrator is just wasted time. I always felt that Alien Gray's effect should have been reversed, that when it is flipped you get the draw, and when it's destroyed as a result of battle you get the A counter placement. The problem with this effect as it stands is that it's completely dependent on the opponent killing Gray for Gray to actually be useful. There are a number of other cards that can accomplish the A counter effect, so most of the time if Gray is flipped during your turn it really can't do anything. After placing the counter, just sit there. If the effects were reversed, the flip netted you the draw, then at least Gray could do something relevant during those somewhat stagnant periods where people have just gone through their resources and now we're kind of in dual top decking. But, I get a Gray, I can set it. If he can't do anything, I can flip it and at least get another draw. But with the A counter, basically worthless. Ammonite is required at 3 for any respectable deck, as it runs the Synchro engine and produces inherent advantage. It's probably the second best card in the entire Alien family. Psychic is a lot like Mars. It looks good in theory, but in practice it struggles to be useful. Before XZ summoning existed, Psychic still had some use, but now it's really just far too dependent on Kid or Virus to actually have any use on its own. In most situations, Cosmic Fortress Gol'gar will be the centerpiece to your victory. It is an exceptionally useful card for this deck. In some respects, Cosmic Fortress is kind of the original Trevere, helping you reuse your continuous cards. This card in combination with Code is ridiculous for swarming, playmaking, and it even creates the viable option to summon Quasar. The ability to destroy one card, not just a monster, also produces valuable versatility. I run 3 copies. If Corruption Cell A were quick play, then this card might be worth running, although I still wouldn't run it. However, as a normal spell, it's pretty much worthless. A-Cell Breeding Device is just too slow. If this card was a continuous trap, then it might be worth it, but as a continuous spell, it only affects one monster, not all monsters, only during your standby phase, nowhere near good enough. A-Cell Incubator is one of those cards that seems good in theory, but the problem is, what happens if the opponent simply elects not to destroy it? What happens if the opponent destroys it when no monsters are in his or her field? The card is simply too inconsistent. A better idea, in my opinion, would have been to allow you to distribute a set number of counters from this card per turn, let's say up to 3. And this card is also hurt because there's no scale A counter card. I mean, a card that gets different effects based on the number of A counters on the field or A counters removed from the field at a given time. And with once per turn restriction, it's not like you can use this card in combination with Cosmic Fortress and then just nuke your opponent's entire field. Mysterious Triangle is a nice card solely because it is quick play, but the destruction of the summoned monster during the end phase tends to limit the usefulness of its quick play ability largely because of the lack of good level 4 alien monsters. There's no real nice level 4 to combo this card with. Unfortunately, that's what really hurts this card, because the card itself is good. It's a high-quality card, but without that key, I'd really want to combo this level 4 alien with Mysterious Triangle. Results it can produce in the end are questionable. Interestingly, I probably would run this card if I had the deck space, but I don't. It's kind of like card 43 on the list, and I only run those 40-card decks. A-Cell Scatterburst is another nice card that gets sacrificed at the altar of deck space. As a quick play card, the main feature of Burst is the defensive nature. Unfortunately, defensive cards don't really work very well for an alien deck because you chiefly use them when your monsters are targeted or will be destroyed by some form of card effect. You flip this over, okay, I get the effect, you still waste the card that you use to either target or try to destroy this card. Aliens typically are not threatening enough to force your opponent to remove them via card effects outside Cosmic Fortress, and if you're just running this card just for Cosmic Fortress, yeah, it's more of a waste. If this card said you could destroy any monster you controlled instead of an alien monster, it would open up the possibility of using monsters you took control of that are now next turn going to go back to your opponent. You could nuke that monster, add a bunch of A counters, and set yourself up for your next play. But unfortunately that's not the case, and combined with there's not a lot of good defensive counters you can do with this card because your opponent's not going to give you the opportunity to do them. Scatterburst is on the cutting room floor. Code Ancient Ruins is another card that must be run at 3 for any respectable alien deck. The combo possibilities for this card are amazing. The ability to remove 2 A counters from anywhere on the field for any alien monster from the graveyard opens so many doors. The fact that this card is reusable with Cosmic Fortress makes it even better. Activate its effect, bounce it back to your hand with Fortress, then activate it again, nets you 2 monsters at the cost of only 3 A counters because of the A counter you receive from putting it back into your hand with Fortress. This card and Cosmic Fortress really are basically what make aliens even playable, let alone competitive. I have said in the past that there really aren't any average field spells outside of the 500 attack increaser attribute ones. A field spell in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is either very good or terrible. And Otherworld, the A-Zone, definitely falls into the latter category. I'm not sure how you can look at this card and not facepalm almost immediately in any era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Realistically, I don't know why anyone would run this card over something like Luminous Spark. Alien Brain is just an inferior version of Creature Swap. If you want to swap monsters that way, just use Creature Swap. So skip Alien Brain. Crop Circles might be good if Aliens actually had some big boss monster that resided in the main deck that was worth summoning. Unfortunately, the only genuinely useful large-level alien is Cosmic Fortress, which Crop Circles obviously cannot access. Overlord is nowhere near valuable enough to waste at least 3 cards grabbing it from the deck. Planet Pollution Virus is another card that is required at 3 for any meaningful alien deck. Both of its effects are very helpful for advancing the win condition. Destroying all non-A counter monsters with an alien monster tribute frequently breaks up opponent tempo and playmaking at little cost, for the tribute can actually set up and play for the next turn. Also, the residual A counter addition effect is incredibly useful for helping summon Overlord, using Brainwashing Beam or Mass Hypnosis, setting up Swarming with Code A, or Monster Destruction with Cosmic Fortress. Virus is a good example of a support card that came far later in the life of a deck, that really gave the deck exactly what it needed to help it jump up in competitiveness. Orbital Bombardment is so bad it makes one want to cry. Yeah, it was in the era when Mystic Space Typhoon was limited to 1, but yeah, that's still no excuse for how bad this card is. Mass Hypnosis is a great side deck card, for the expiration of its effect during the end phase of the activated turn hurts its consistency. However, it can be a great card for neutralizing those high-capacity swarm decks, most notably Pendulum decks, especially when Kid is on the field or Pollutant's effect is still active. Detonator Circle A is just not worth it. It's not horrible, but it's also far too inconsistent to be any real use. Times when you can activate it on the next turn, and there are times when it'll just sit on the field for 6 turns doing nothing. Interdimensional Warp. Remember when I called Alien Brain an inferior version of Creature Swap? Apparently there weren't enough inferior versions of Creature Swap for alien decks, so they had to make another one. Cell Explosion Virus was actually rather good in the era when Mirror Force was banned or limited to 1. However, that's not the case anymore, so skip it. When it comes to monster stealing cards, Brainwashing Beam is my card of choice, for it is not difficult to get at least 2 A counters on a single monster, steal it during your turn, and wreck your opponent's field with their own monster. In combination with Pollutant Virus, Beam is a very nice tempo breaker. Finishing the monsters, the biggest problem with alien decks is a lack of speed. For the value of cards like Planet Pollution Virus and Code A Ancient Ruin cannot be understated. These cards win you the game, period. However, these cards really are not searchable, and the general speed of the deck via its direct support is lacking, limiting the probability of quickly accessing these cards. Therefore, I like to run 3 copies of Kuribandit to speed through the deck in effort to access either of these cards, with a preference towards Code A. Kuribandit can also help dump aliens into the graveyard to set up Ammonite and Code A. The reason you use Kuribandit over like Lightsworn or other dumpers is you want to get those spells and traps. It really hurts if you're going to use some Lightsworn monster like Raiden and you just dump in a Code A. It's like, I wanted that Code A. Code A is super important to this deck. So Kuribandit gives you an opportunity to add one of those cards to your hand. For the remaining spells, I run 3 of the standard staples, 1 Raigeki, 1 Book of Moon, and 1 Soul Charge. Dark Hole is MIA from this deck because of lack of deck space. Moving on to the non-direct alien support traps, I run 4 of the general staples in Torrential, 1 Bottomless, 1 Solemn Warning, and 1 Compulse. because with Cosmic Fortress and Pollution Virus, general destruction is rather covered, so Ring becomes somewhat redundant. You want to use Compulse to get rid of those monsters that evade destruction. Also, I run the quasi-staple 1 Vanity's Emptiness. Due to the large presence of reptile monsters in this deck, it makes sense to run at least 2 copies of Offering to the Snake Deity. I run 2. Not only does Offering wreck your opponent's tempo and field, it's really at little cost because the monster is destroyed, which helps you feed Code A or even feed Ammonite by adding something to the graveyard. Finally, I run 3 copies of Fiendish Chain, both to stop monster effects and attacks, as well as to act as a fortress target to bounce it back into my hand for reuse as well as getting A counters. Other than the 3 Cosmic Fortresses for the extra deck, I run 1 Shooting Quasar Dragon, 1 Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier, pretty easy to make, 1 Mist Wurm, also rather easy to make, 1 Stardust Spark Dragon, you make this with Dog and Ammonite and any level 4, Michael the Arc-Lord, Lights, 1 Phonon Pulse Dragon, 1 and the 4 rank 4 staples in my opinion: Exciton Knight, number 101, Castel, and XZ Dragon. Also, I run 1 King of the Feral Imps for searching, and 1 Wind-up Zenmaines when I'm kind of up against it and all I have are dogs. I run Quasar in this deck because while it's not constructed in a way to maximize Quasar summoning, there is still a reasonable probability of summoning Quasar. So, how is Quasar summoned in this deck? The easiest way is to have at least 2 A counters on the field, not super difficult, at least 1 Code A either in hand or on the field, again, not super difficult, and 1 Alien Dog and 1 Alien Ammonite in hand with at least 2 level 4 aliens in the graveyard. Also, not really that difficult, although you'll understand that it's certainly not a turn 1 Quasar summons. Under these conditions, you first normal summon Ammonite, and also special summon Alien Dog from the hand off of that normal summons. You attach 2 A counters to an opponent's monster. Then you use Ammonite's special summon a level 4 monster from the graveyard. Then you use Code A's effect to special summon another level 4 alien monster. So you should have at least 4 monsters on the field. Then you synchro summon 1 Cosmic Fortress, bounce all face-up spell and traps back to the owner's hand, and place all A counters on Cosmic Fortress. You need at least 2 A counters after this effect to continue for Quasar with this particular deck build. You'll get 1 from bouncing back the Code A, so you just need to bounce back 1 more if you don't have something else already on the field. Next, you activate Code A again, use its effect to summon Ammonite. Then you synchro summon a second Cosmic Fortress using the newly summoned Ammonite and the other level 4 alien monster you still have on the field. You use that Cosmic Fortress's effect to bounce Code A back into your hand. Then you activate Code A again, special summon using, and you can use Dog's counters if needed, if you've run out of counters, the Ammonite back from the graveyard. Then you synchro summon Phonon Pulse Dragon using the Ammonite and Dog. Make Phonon a level 2 using its effect, and then you synchro for Quasar. Basically, through this method, you can summon Quasar with some natural setup, things that are just going to happen naturally through the flow of the game, and 3 cards: Dog, Ammonite, Code A. Overall, while aliens are certainly not a tier 1 deck, for they do take a little time to set up, and that time to set up in this really fast Yu-Gi-Oh environment might be a little too late, they can be nasty when run properly. And they do have that competitive aspect to them. I think one of the problems with alien decks is people have kind of fallen in love with the Shock Trooper Rescue Rabbit combo, and as I said before, that takes away 4 deck spots that I think can be better used to advance the win condition. The one real thing that aliens are missing, they were missing 2 things before, but Planet Polluting Virus really helped fill that. We need another good way of putting A counters on monsters. The only other thing they're missing is kind of a type-specific draw card that might interact with A counters. Unfortunately, they'll probably never get that card, so speed is always going to be one of those shady issues with aliens, but as I said, they're still a pretty solid deck when run properly. Well, that's my alien deck. Thank you for your attention and your time. I'm out.